Welcome to the AI Frame podcast, a space where we explore how founders, innovators, and investors are navigating the world of artificial intelligence. Each episode brings you thoughtful conversations with people redefining how technology meets strategy, separating what's real from what is noise. I'm Ana Rojo-Taurua, doctor in mathematics, AI consultant and strategist, and your host. So grab a coffee and let's frame the future of AI together. In today's episode, we are stepping in a space where science, capital, and AI converge. One of the most complex and high-stakes industries in the world, and that is healthcare. Longevity is quickly becoming an investable category, but it's clear that scaling preventative care isn't just about better science. It's about building systems that are robust, responsible, and that actually fit in real clinical environments. So today, we're framing a big question. What does it really take to build AI systems that can scale preventative healthcare responsibly? And is AI actually the solution here? And if so, how do we build in a way that is robust, cautious, and grounded in reality? I'm joined by Cosmina and Elio, co-founders of LongevAI, who are building AI systems designed to support preventative health clinics and scale personalized care. Together, we're going to explore what happens when AI moves beyond automation and becomes part of the clinical decision-making environments. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, guys. How are you?
Thank you. We are great. We are here in Singapore and we are enjoying our stay very much because it's way different compared to the very cold weather over in the Netherlands. Here we are enjoying 28 degrees.
Who are you and how did each of you end up working in the intersection of AI and longevity?
My name is Cosmina Druica. I'm the co-founder of LongevAI together with Elio. I'm living in the Netherlands. My background is technology and consulting. I spent about 15 years in consulting before, and in 2017 I decided to focus more on building around my passions and investing time and energy in this direction. And one of my passions was, of course, health and longevity. Since then, I spent a couple of years trying to educate myself and connecting to people in the field, reading books, reading science, and identifying what are the best things we can do for our health, to improve our health, to live healthier and longer. And a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I started a longevity community in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg in our region where we live. And this community was about, again, sharing information, about connecting people in this field, connecting companies, and spending time together, learning from each other. And this is how I met Elio, and together we decided to start our company.
I am fascinated by AI, but also by the possibility of living extremely healthily with great cognition and capabilities as a person, and also with the possibility of living way longer, potentially forever. I'm Elio Verhoef, of course, the co-founder. I met Cosmina through this community, the longevity community that she built. And I am in general very focused on growth and learning, and I really enjoy those aspects. I worked a bit in IT, doing networking scripts, but also I worked quite a bit in AI, building software that uses large language models effectively, as well as some machine learning after I completed my studies in computer science and information science. So that's a double bachelor in the Netherlands. I'm personally half Austrian and half Dutch, so I speak also a bit of German.
Very cool.
And yeah, I'm 23 years old, so I'm a bit younger than you.
The biological age can tell more than the chronological age.
Was there a specific moment or realization that made this problem feel more personal and also worth investing in?
For me, it was the process. With time, I could see that people around me, family and friends, had health issues. People in my family passed away very early in life, and I realized that health is the most important asset we have.
Yes.
And without it, our capabilities are going to be impaired. So we cannot do the things we love. We cannot spend time with the people we love. So that's why health and living very healthy for very long eventually became a priority. So I decided to allocate a lot of my time and resources to it. And applying that personally became a reason to want to add value to other people's lives and to create something more impactful.
What about you, Elio?
I've always been very focused on my health, but I have been seeing around me like many people who have not been doing this. They are drinking alcohol, or just eating sugar, and generally not really caring that much about their health or themselves, perhaps even. And I didn't really understand that. And I just decided to go a bit of my own way and figure out what is the best way for me to improve as a person, but also improve my own health. And I decided to consciously not engage in the relationships that were perhaps not so focused on improvement or health. And I started to look for alternative communities, which is where I found the community of Cosmina. But for me, it was a process over time where I've always been aligned with this mission and way of living internally. And I just took some time to find the right people that align with the same mission.
Health and fitness is a big pillar of my life, and for me is what holds everything together. I don't think I would be able to do the things that I do in my professional life if I wasn't taking care of my health. And the same issue, like I experience in my life situations in where I met people that they were engaging in behaviors that they were not aligned really with the type of life in terms of health that I wanted to have. And I walked away from those communities and from those people and find all the people that actually align better with that. And that has allowed me to grow and to improve more, not just in a personal life, but also in a professional environment. So I can totally relate to that. Let's talk now about investing. Longevity is becoming an investable category. From your perspective, why do you think this is? Is it because there's a scientific movement that is powering this? Is, healthcare evolution? Or is it just like a capital-driven wave?
I definitely think it started with a scientific-driven revolution. We saw in the last couple of years several organizations, institutes, and academies creating awareness and programs around longevity. For example, there is the Buck Institute in the US. There is the National Academy of Healthy Longevity in Singapore. There are programs like Evolution in the Middle East. These programs and initiatives raised awareness and allocate a lot of financial resources to research. So it starts from research. Actually, 2 years ago, we saw that in the US, the most important program called ARPA-H announced that they approved 144 million for research programs and translating those research. And those initiatives are related to extending health span. So this is for the first time in history when governmental organization allocates this budget and specifically to increasing health span and looking at the aging process. So it's a very important milestone. So I can see that everything started with science. We can also see that more and more people are adopting healthy lifestyle. There are different services and different longevity clinics that help people understand their health and also create personalized programs, precision programs. So there is much more guidance coming. We see a lot of clinics opening in Europe. We are here right now in Singapore and we are talking to several longevity clinics. There are amazing programs. And yes, if people are interested, there are ways that they can look at their health and be very proactive about it. We see that the adoption has already started. Now, when we talk about capital, we can also see that smart capital is noticing this movement. We see people like Larry Ellison, like Sam Altman, like Jeff Bezos, Peter Thiel, who invested in this field already. There are billions invested in programs around longevity and companies working in the field, extending health span and even lifespan. So we see that the sequence is first science, then the population is being aware and they are adopting routines in the field. And yeah, there are more and more therapies coming. And we see that as well, capital is following, but it's not the other way around. It's not the capital first and the science follows. So definitely this is what I can see.
Right. So I'm understanding that the science is there is awareness, there is capital. Is the software good enough to support all this?
Currently, with regards to making real progress in the longevity science part, I feel like there are already some systems, especially with regards to AI, that help with the research part, but this can definitely be expanded a lot. I feel like the systems aspect is one of the most essential aspects that will help us to get real breakthroughs with regards to iterations in lifespan interventions that are very effective for humans, and that can start with performing very large-scale research on many animals that are, like there's already quite a bit of mice experiments, but there can also be some fish, which we saw in the conference we attended, automatically monitored. So you can have perhaps a large-scale factory or building where you keep all of the fish, you try out many different interventions and see what the response are, thereby creating a funnel for the potential interventions that might be relevant to humans, which you can then test out on a large scale as well. So that would be an example of a system which can be assisted with tech and AI and automations, especially when you have like cameras being pointed at those fish to see how their behavior changes as a consequence of the interventions. Putting all these systems in place and using the appropriate tech is not yet fully in place, but we're getting there.
My experience working with some organizations that are working in the healthcare space is that they are underusing the existing science because their operating system is still outdated. And sometimes the case is that they have lots of different tools that are used for isolated tasks, but there's no like an underlying operating system that can take care of everything at the same time.
I noticed that as well. And if you have many different tools in different places, you will need to copy paste over data and look at combining different tools that might be not necessarily focused on you as a company. So there might be, like for longevity clinics, for example, you might be using a EHR that is focused for reactive medicine, like hospitals, rather than preventive medicine. And then you need to connect that to a tool where you are interpreting the data, like spreadsheets, which can take quite a bit of manual effort. You copy over the biomarkers, you create manual charts, you look into those, you analyze them, you use a different tool again for client communication, and then you have to store that data again in your EHR, and you use your own brain as inputs to connect all of these different tools, which provides a burden not only in cognitive effort, but also in time.
Right.
And if you have a platform that stores all the data in one place, uses the workflows you're already familiar with and are already using, even if you were not to use that system, and just connect all the tools in one place, then you can save a huge amount of time and effort.
I want you to tell me a little bit more about LongevOS, which is a clinical operating system that you guys have developed.
It's a platform for longevity clinics. You have a clinician side and a client portal. From the clinician side, you will be assisted in all the workflow operations. This will be many different features. So you can upload a lab report, after which the biomarkers will be extracted and converted to your reference range. They will be analyzed by the AI using your methodology for each of your health domains that you're using in the clinic. All of it is configurable, the health domains, the units for your biomarkers, and basically it will generate health insights for all the health domains to show to the client what's actually going on for my cardiovascular health, what is going on for my hormonal health, what is going on for my lipids, etc. And then the AI will suggest that to the clinician to then review those health insights and allow the clinician to edit them before approving it and showing it to the client in the client portal. The AI system, or LongevOS, will also generate actions or interventions for the client based on all their data. So clients can fill out in their client portal like questionnaires, and they can do consultations with the clinician, and all that information, including the biomarker data, can be used to find the proper actions or interventions for the clients to improve their health. And these interventions are also configurable by the clinic, so they will be able to know what interventions the AI can choose from and in which scenarios it will do so. And then the clinician just has to review the suggested actions, edit the personalized action descriptions, and share it with the client, which can save a lot of time and effort.
From what you're describing, I understand there's an orchestration layer going behind the scenes. And someone that maybe is not very technical and that uses AI tools in their day-to-day life, and for example, they are familiarized with ChatGPT, they might ask you, okay, but why I can't use ChatGPT instead? Like, how is it different?
Using ChatGPT would not be compliant, first of all.
Yes.
So, first of all, by default, ChatGPT will train on the data if you don't disable the option. And even if you disable the option, then sending client data or patient data in there will be stored on US servers. So if you have a clinic in Europe, well, that's out of the option set. There's no audit trail if you just go back and forth between ChatGPT and your client data. But it's also a lot of hassle to copy over all of the client data and then also inform ChatGPT about your clinical methodology or way of working and inform them about all of the relevant context, like the previous questionnaires or the blood biomarkers, etc. And then you're also not sure if there will be hallucination or if the AI model will maybe start searching the web for some information and then, well, what information would even include. So there's a lot of risks regarding that. So it might start to suggest some things that were just released in a new news article, and that is not something you want to do as a clinic because it might contain incorrect information.
Yeah.
If you go back and forth in ChatGPT, the more an AI model will have to remember, the worse the quality of its responses will get. So if you are going into a tool like ChatGPT, you provide all the data of the client and you go back and forth discussing some of the aspects of the client's health and what might be good interventions for them, then after a while, you will just end up with a final report or an initial health report, which can contain issues or small inconsistencies, which is definitely not something you want. And this is generally true for every LLM. The more information you provide, the worse the outputs will get. So you need to provide like exactly the right information at the right time.
I guess it allows you to filter the noise and the data that is just not relevant for what you're trying to do. And how do you design for a caution? Because when you use tools like ChatGPT, we get responses that are very agreeable. But obviously in this context, in this industry, that's something that needs to be regulated. You don't want it to sound more confident than the science actually is. So how do you handle this from like a technical perspective?
With regards to the potential interventions that the system will recommend, we let the AI choose from all the potential interventions that the clinic might want to suggest in specific cases. And that is the action library that we're using. This will be configured at the start and it can contain hundreds of possible interventions that are supported by science. This is what the clinic chooses as their methodology. They will choose what kind of interventions they will recommend. And for each of those interventions, in the configuration panel, we can set exactly what the clinic believes the evidence level for that recommendation to be. So then we know for each of the actions how well grounded it is in science, and that allows for more proper suggestions towards the client. As a consequence of that, the AI can then select the proper actions based on all the client data, like perhaps even the wearable data, previous consultations, the questionnaire filled out, and of course their biomarkers, to select all the actions that make sense for the client at this point in time. After selecting those, it will, of course, also personalize the description of the action, like what exactly to do and why it is relevant for them. And for each of the actions that is shown to the clinician for review, we show to the clinician what data was used to select that action, to personalize this action description. So it's basically a variant of explainable AI, where we show why the model chose this action, why the model describes this action in this way to the client, and what data that description is based on. Furthermore, we also used a lot of different settings and testing to make sure there's no hallucination going on and to ground the selection and personalization steps of the process purely in the data of the client and nothing else. These actions are not generated from scratch by the AI. They are based on a template that the clinic put in place initially, and then the template we personalized. So we have evidence-based templates of actions, which will be selected and personalized by the AI so that we always know that the interventions are based in science.
That's so cool. I think explainable AI is such an important pillar when it comes to building AI solutions. It gives trust. I think some AI solutions can be a little bit black boxy. And how do you trust something that you first don't understand and you don't know where the outputs come from? So I think it's super important that you guys are showing, what data was used, where the actions come from. The template part, I think, is also super important. So it's not just a random generation. You're actually given your solution like a guidance that is based in science. So I think it's such a great approach to reduce hallucinations. What do you think AI is overpromised now in the healthcare and longevity sector?
I feel like agents have been on the rise. There's a lot of AI agents that are being suggested, and sometimes even as the all-in-one solution for many issues. And that can be sometimes a bit of an overpromise, especially when it's a mismatch with the user's expectations. So agents are capable of doing a defined subset of actions, and that will be whatever the software developer has defined the agents to be allowed or capable of doing. But if that is not properly communicated to the user, then there can be frustration. Like you're saying to the agent, hey, please book a meeting with my client for the next week. And then it says, okay, I'm going ahead. And it does nothing, right? So sometimes AI models can act as if everything is going well, but then they don't actually do anything. Or it just doesn't work, right? The AI model will still say, hey, I can't book meetings, sorry. But that's a mismatch in expectations. So in those cases, it's building around the user and communicating clearly also what the AI agent is capable of, as well as providing the AI agent with the proper meta information about itself to properly inform the users of what it can and cannot do and what it is there for. Because if you have a chat with an AI agent, then it is really beneficial to, at every step, be informed and aware of what it can do and cannot do. And there's also some risks involved with agents. If you go back and forth with an agent and are doing many different things, updating client descriptions or action plans or these kind of things, you will sooner or later have a chat of many back and forth messages that can fill context window, the memory of the AI, the chat history, which decreases the performance of the AI model, allowing it to do some things less effectively than before and perhaps doing it in a way that you don't want it to.
Yes.
So that's one of the things. If you go into long sessions, it's a risk because the output will become worse and you will get inconsistencies and perhaps some errors from the AI agent. Of course, this can be solved over time, but currently it's still the case. And another risk would be an AI agent is configured to be able to do many different things, but perhaps it's configured to do a little bit too many things. So that if you ask it to perhaps draft an email and it's capable of connecting to your Gmail, then it says, okay, what do you think about this draft? And you say, okay, it looks good. Maybe we can refine this punctuation here. And it refines the punctuation and then proactively already starts sending the email. Now, that's something you definitely don't want. But if the agent is configured to have quite a bit of autonomy in terms of what actions it can perform, then it can also perform actions that are perhaps even irreversible and negatively impactful to your company or personal life.
When it comes to designing an agentic solution, architecture is super important. So determining what agents can access to, so what information, but also what tools can use under what circumstances, really designing really good system prompts and always do, and you've mentioned it before, lot of testing and use lot of evaluation strategies and implementing both observability and monitoring during, the building phase and the testing phase to really understand what is going on behind the scenes. The context window piece is something super important, right? We're really having issues with just using an LLM. So imagine how complex it can get when you're using an agent, or even more complex when you're using multi-agent systems, because in the context window, you not only have the conversation, but you also have information about the actions that the agent has used and the tools that they have used. So that's more and more that you're putting in the context window. And even with some strategies that have been developed in terms of summarizing what is in the context window, there are nuances that are being lost there. I think one of the main areas of research in 2026 are actually going to be around how we improve this issue that exists with context windows so we can improve agentic systems.
I agree completely. Great points.
Cosmina, you're also an investor. What's one thing investors misunderstand about building AI in regulated industries, like, for example, healthcare and longevity?
Building in healthcare and longevity is a regulated environment. We need to take into account so many things, and Elio mentioned a few of them here. It's about privacy, GDPR, encryption, and many other things we need to keep in mind. Besides how AI is being configured, besides the prompt engineering and all those complexities that we mentioned earlier, there are so many angles we need to take into account, and that adds some complexity and that adds some time to the development and the testing phases. So when we compare health system and we compare it with a commercial application or platform, there are some differences. So while investors want fast return of investment, we know that in this field, it can happen that time is not always what we predict. We might need more time because there are different players. We depend on different entities for certain approvals or regulations or ISO standards. And we need to align with doctors. They have their requirements as well. So the field is a bit different, and also the investors need to think about those things when they want to deploy capital in this field. What I see is that many investors in this field are also aligned from the mission point of view, so they want to contribute to the field, and that makes the investment process and their expectations more aligned. So when somebody is looking for return of investment in terms of years rather than only money, then it's also different. And the investment, the purely financial investment, can also be very attractive and lucrative because the field is still very small. There is a lot of opportunity to grow. We see smart capital already buying in, and that's a good sign because those are people who are visionaries. So they see some trends, they see some signs. But people who don't know exactly how it works might have the wrong expectations, like, okay, I want it and I want it to be ready tomorrow. And sometimes that's not the case.
That is why knowledge and literacy are so important. There's a lot of people that think, well, you can build a POC in in a week. So then that's it. When you want to move from a POC to a product that is actually going to be used by users and that is going to scale, that takes much more time. Putting governance strategy in place, align with regulations, align with policies, all the testing, all the evaluation, especially in these regulated industries, take much more time. But obviously, if you don't know, then is what you're saying, right? Your expectations just don't align. What assumption about AI in healthcare and longevity do we most need to challenge right now?
It's kind of the opposite of this AI lucky go happy perspective, namely that there's a real hesitance around adopting AI, especially in these medical fields, from doctors, from perhaps the owners of the clinic or other people as well. For example, if the AI generates recommendations that might seem logical on paper, but are actually risky to the client, the clinician might just be not paying that much attention and approve it, and then the client will face health risks, right? So to use our system as an example, I feel like AI can be improving the quality of outcomes for clients if it is used effectively. The fear around AI is logical. It makes sense because these AI-generated interventions can indeed cause issues. But if you put it in a well-regulated platform where the clinician will have to review first and then approve, it can actually improve the patient outcomes because it will spark new ideas for the clinician. It will suggest interventions that they might not have thought of initially. And it allows for them to review, slightly improve, and also add their own interventions that they think might be relevant for the client, such that you get the best of both worlds. You get the input from the clinician and you get the input of the ever-evolving large language models with their training data and expertise to provide the best advice to the clients. In our system, the AI also learns from the feedback of the clinician. So if they will give feedback to the generated or selected actions, then the AI will be able to take that feedback into account for all the future similar cases. These kind of small tweaks don't have to be applied over and over again.
Amazing. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I really enjoy our conversation, and I'm sure that the audience will enjoy it too. Thank you for listening to the AI Friend podcast. If you like this episode, follow the show and share with someone who would love it too. I'm Ana Rojo, and I'll see you next time for another conversation that reframes how we think about AI.